Greetings from Korea, it's David again. I want to give everybody an update for this week. This week started out a little wet, a little rainy, much like it was last week, but as you'll see later in the video, it kind of cleared up a little bit, but this is what I understand to be common this time of year, is you get lots and lots of rain and cloudy skies. Since it was so cloudy, I decided to make a couple of cookies to kind of give myself a taste of home. They actually turned out pretty good, but they were just cookies straight out of the bag mix, and they were not as good as homemade cookies, but I was trying to satisfy an itch. While those cookies baked, I found some potting soil that I could put in my plants that I planted around the apartment and spruce them up a little bit, give them some new life, as they had been neglected whenever I got them. And so hopefully this new soil kind of rejuvenates them a little bit more and gives them some more vibrancy. Trying to find a good spot for them in the sun is a little bit hard, but they get some morning sun, but that's really about it with the placement of the windows in the apartment. But I think they're doing strong. They're better than they were off before. As soon as that was done, my cookies were finally ready, and they turned out okay. Not as good as homemade, but they're okay. Later in the week, I got invited to go to Seoul with a couple of other guys. I'd never been before, so I took the opportunity and said, yeah, let's go. So we had to take a couple of back alleyways and some down streets in order to get to the train station to get to Seoul, which was a little nerve-wracking, but it was actually very safe the entire time. This is one of the safest cities that you could actually be in. The whole way there, everything was green and pretty, so I took lots of videos because everybody says here in about another month or two it's going to start dipping down into colder weather, and winter is fast approaching, which they said everything will kind of die off and it'll look like winter again. And being in Florida, I don't think I've seen winter in a long time. We finally got to the train station and figured out what trains we need to go on. And like I said, the guys that we were with had done this before, so they knew exactly where to go to. So very grateful for that. Otherwise, I would have been totally lost. It was very green and very pretty on the ride up to Seoul. The train ride took an hour and a half, which was a little longer than I had anticipated, but it wasn't too bad. And the only problem is everybody's going to Seoul. So it was a very crowded train ride all the way up there. But we finally made it. As soon as you get off the train, you're in a shopping mall. And the shopping mall was pretty extravagant looking. It was neat to see a different culture's shopping mall. Looked much like ours, just it was a little bit smaller but much taller. So small floor space, but I think it was 6 stories tall. So it was pretty cool to see. They have all kinds of specialty shops, and some were strictly Korean, writing, language, pricing, and then some are catered a little bit more to the American audience. They had a bunch of SpongeBob SquarePants themed stuff everywhere, and they also had a bunch of Marvel stuff that's just really big over this way. So they had a whole store dedicated to nothing but Marvel products. They also had a SpongeBob SquarePants restaurant that you could stop and eat at. I thought that was pretty neat too. Like I said, the mall is about 6 stories tall, and there's open sections throughout the mall where you could see all the way to the top and to the bottom while you're riding the escalators up. It was pretty neat. There's another section. This kind of reminded me of the Harry Potter walkways or the moving staircases that they have inside of Hogwarts. It was pretty neat looking, but it was a cool experience all the way through this mall. Everything is real neat, real lit up, very flashy and cool looking. After we got done with the mall, we decided we were going to go visit the War Memorial of Korea. And this was just basically, like it sounds, the history of wartime throughout Korea. So we had to take about a 2-mile walk in order to get to where we were going to through downtown Seoul, which downtown Seoul is really nice. It's a population of about 10 million people, and it doesn't feel too congested. In the distance area, you can see the Tower of Seoul. We decided to eat at a shop in one of the little back alleys, which is pretty good. And then we decided to make our way over to the museum. And downtown Seoul is a very pretty area, so the walk there was not bad at all. We got to the museum about mid-afternoon and began our walk through. It's a gigantic museum, lots of history and lots of cool stuff inside of it. And just the outside of it was very awe-inspiring. They have it done up very beautifully, very, very neat looking. So this was the grand entrance of the museum. It has a huge courtyard and then a nice walk up into the museum. Once you get in the museum, there's a couple of different paths that you can take. We started out with the ancient history. In the ancient history, they show you some of the early naval ships and things like that they had. And then throughout the museum, they have exactly what the significance is of each one of these artifacts. It was so big that we could have spent the entire day there, but we had a limited amount of time, so we decided to push our way through as quick as possible and see as much as possible. See a whole bunch of the tanks and the different armaments that they have, and it was really cool. They got them split up. It's about half Korean and half U.S. military armaments and equipment and tanks and things like that. One of the things that we really wanted to see was the outside courtyard, because in the outside courtyard they have all the aircraft set up, and again it's about half Korean, half U.S. Really cool to see. Good day for doing it too. It was nice and cool. We got to climb on and go through and see a whole bunch of the aircraft that they used during that time period, which is really neat. It was a big highlight of the trip up there. Lots of cool stuff to see. Just no end in sight of how many cool things they had to see. I would love to go back there one day and just spend the whole day exploring the museum. It was getting late, so we had to head back to the train station. On the way back to the train station, there's a bunch of street vendors, and each one of them had signs displayed. I have no idea what these signs say, but they had a whole bunch of them around, so I decided to take pictures of them. But there's no shortage of signs. And like I said, no idea what they said, but it's cool to see. And just like in the US, they had food vendors and all that kind of stuff that would come out later in the day. Seoul's a very big city, but it still maintains kind of a small city feel, if that makes sense to it. As we were walking through, there was some sort of rally going on, so off in the distance you could hear whatever they were rallying for. Lots of cheers and lots of announcements. So I have no idea what it was for, but it sounded pretty cool. That really wrapped up our trip in Seoul. I had a great time doing it. Like I said, I was very grateful for the guys that we went with. Otherwise, I would have had no idea where I was going or how to get where I was going to. We ended up riding the train back, about another 2-hour train ride back, because we had to hop on a couple of different trains to get where we were going to. And like I said, I'm so grateful for the guys we went with, because otherwise I would have had no idea, and there's no telling where I would have ended up at. So it was a great day. Really had a lot of fun in Seoul. Another exciting event this week, I finally got my goods in and my personal belongings. So I was very excited about that, because I've been anticipating that for a couple weeks now. The movers came and offloaded my stuff, so I now have my guitars back. I got a bigger TV now, and a little bit more of the comforts from home. Looks like everything made it in one piece. I was a little worried about the guitars, but my electric guitar made it just fine. Still plays well. I think there was some humidity in the air because it rusted the strings a little bit. Acoustic guitar made it just fine too. Plays beautifully. I think that one did a little bit better, just the case is a little more airtight on it. But started unpacking, trying to get everything settled in, make it look like a home more than it is just a temporary living space. But before we left, we got a whole bunch of kitchen utensils and things like that, so ended up unpacking those, and I'll be using those a little bit later to actually do some cooking and eating within my apartment. I've spent a couple of hours arranging everything, trying to get everything laid out just right. I think I found a good fit for everything. I may end up arranging some more stuff later on, but I think I got everything situated the way I want to just for now. But ended up getting the guitar set up and computer set up, and my electronic drum set, so I can play around on that. And I got TV set up in the corner, and pretty well everything set up like I think I'm going to leave it for right now. I also ended up setting the projector up across the room, and if I shine it on the wall, it illuminates the entire wall and gives me a live wall in the apartment, which I thought was really cool. So I usually switch out the themes on there. But overall, a good week. I'm glad I got to go to Seoul, and I'm glad I got my stuff in. Thanks everybody for watching these videos again. I'll keep posting everything that I got whenever I get it. Like I said, winter should be coming soon, and things should start changing, and leaves should start changing colors, and looking forward to making some videos on that as well. So miss everybody back home. Can't wait to get back home. Thanks for watching. Love you all.